Imagine waking up one morning to find that your life savings are worthless, that your salary can barely buy bread, and that the country you love is slowly falling apart. This isn't fiction. This is Lebanon, once called the Switzerland of the Middle East. Today, Lebanon faces one of the worst economic collapses since the 19th century, according to the World Bank. A foreign debt default, a currency meltdown, and a banking sector bankruptcy have combined into a perfect storm, destroying not just the economy, but threatening the very survival of the nation. So, how did Lebanon get here? And is there any way out? After the civil war ended in 1990, Lebanon tried to rebuild under the Taif Agreement. The plan was simple: peg the Lebanese pound to the US dollar and rebuild confidence. By 1997, the exchange rate was fixed at 1,507 Lebanese pound for $1. It brought stability, but at a cost. The government kept running huge deficits, borrowing more and more to fund reconstruction, public salaries, and subsidies. Instead of investing in industries or exports, Lebanon became a consumption-based, import-heavy economy. And how was this financed? Through debt, high-interest banking, and remittances from the Lebanese diaspora. From 1990 to 2019, Lebanon's trade deficit averaged 32% of GDP, one of the highest in the world. To put that in perspective, the global average is just 5% to 6%. On the surface, things looked stable. Beneath, cracks were growing. Lebanon's banks became the beating heart of this fragile system. To attract dollars, they offered unusually high interest rates, sometimes 10% or more. Money poured in. By 2018, Lebanese banks were making $8.5 billion in interest income, equal to 15% of GDP. Compare that to France, where banking profits are just 6% of GDP. But here's the dark truth. The money wasn't being invested productively. 70% of bank assets were just loans to the government and the central bank. In effect, Lebanon's financial system became a Ponzi scheme, using new deposits to pay old debts. And who controlled these banks? Nearly 40% of banking shares were owned by politicians themselves. The same elite who ran the government also ran the banks, protecting themselves while ordinary citizens carried the risk. Lebanon's fragile system could survive only as long as fresh dollars kept flowing. But starting 2011, things turned ugly. The Syrian civil war brought over 1.5 million refugees, straining schools, hospitals, and energy. In 2014, oil prices collapsed from $120 to under $30 per barrel, hitting Lebanese workers in the Gulf. Remittances, which once made up 17 to 25% of GDP, began drying up. Foreign investment slowed, and Gulf states began pulling deposits. By 2016, Lebanese banks saw zero growth in deposits. The central bank responded by raising interest rates even higher, trying desperately to lure dollars back. But it was only postponing the inevitable. On October 2019, the government, desperate for revenue, announced a new tax even on WhatsApp calls. That was the spark. Protests erupted across the country. For the first time, Lebanese from all sects and religions chanted together, "All of you means all of you," demanding that the entire political class resign. But while people were protesting, the economy was collapsing. Depositors rushed to withdraw dollars. Banks froze accounts, imposed informal capital controls, and shut their doors. Confidence evaporated. By March 2020, Lebanon defaulted on its foreign debt for the first time in history. The pound began to freefall from 1,507 per dollar to over 30,000 per dollar by 2022. Inflation hit 200%. Food prices rose 500%. GDP shrank from $55 billion in 2018 to just $22 billion in 2021. In just 3 years, poverty exploded from 30% to over 85% of the population. The middle class gone. Behind these numbers are real people. Retired Army officer Mohsen Halim Suleiman set himself on fire in December 2021, unable to face poverty. Families spend hours in queues for bread, fuel, and medicine. Hospitals refuse patients unless they pay upfront in cash. Internet and telecom companies, once profitable, collapsed from $850 million revenue in 2018 to just $5 million in 2021 dollars. Lebanon's state power company, EDL, can provide only 2 hours a day. Its deficits alone make up nearly half of Lebanon's $95 billion public debt. Many Lebanese see only two choices: emigrate or risk death at sea. In April 2022, a boat carrying 60 people capsized on its way to Cyprus. Children were among the dead. This isn't just an economic crisis. it's a humanitarian disaster. Lebanon's collapse isn't an accident, it's the end of a broken system built on corruption, sectarian patronage, and unsustainable borrowing. By 2020, debt had reached 170% of GDP. By 2021, it crossed 250%, making it unpayable. The central bank owes commercial banks $85 billion, but has just $12 billion in reserves. The currency keeps collapsing, from 2,000 in 2020 to 34,000 in 2022, with fears of 50,000 or worse. This is not just an economic collapse, it's the implosion of the entire Lebanese model. Can Lebanon recover? Yes, but only if it makes deep structural reforms. End the banking secrecy laws that shield the elite. Restructure banks, protecting small depositors while making the wealthy absorb losses. Reform the energy sector and end regressive fuel subsidies. Use state-owned assets like gold, worth $17 billion, and public companies to rebuild infrastructure not just to pay old debts. But here's the problem. The same political elite that caused this collapse is still in power. In 2022, Nabi Berri was re-elected as parliament speaker, a position he's held since 1992. Without real political change, economic reform may never happen. Lebanon today stands at a crossroads. It could use this crisis as a chance to rebuild a modern democratic state that serves all citizens. Or it could sink deeper into chaos, corruption, and despair. The choice will define not just Lebanon's future, but the stability of the entire region. Because when a nation once called the Switzerland of the Middle East can fall this far, it's a warning to the world. No system built on corruption, debt, and denial can last forever. If you found this video informative, hit the like button, share it with others, and don't forget to subscribe, The Fellow Investor.